First and foremost, I want to say to CK, thank you very much for not giving up. Um, Listening to your story, it reminded me a lot of my own story, and also provided some more encouragement to say, look, you know what, you're not the only one out there, and I'm sure so many entrepreneurs, founders, startups are listening to us here, and I hope they are equally encouraged. My feedback is in three parts. Just a little bit of my own story and experience in Nigeria, and of course in Dubai, where I have businesses too. Is, partnerships that work, collaboration. So when I started, my first company was into digital inclusion, building smart homes and integration and all of that. And as things evolved, as things changed, we found out that we were, at some point, we were doing 70% government contracts and 30% private sector. And then, of course, we know how uncertain and unreliable governments can be. And then we instituted a policy to change that. We wanted to be more private sector dependent, but then we had some capacity gap to achieve that. And to bridge that gap, what we did was to look out for collaborations, partnerships, and that is what has helped us to get this point. Now, I also want to point out something, that as founders, sometimes we need to know when we are standing in the way by ourselves. So for me, from the 6th, 7th year of my first business, I started to realize that I was more effective in the advisory and governance role than the daily operations. And because I found out early that I was more of a corporate butterfly who is more into serial entrepreneurship. So therefore, I was beginning to have less and less focus for this business that was my bread and butter, feeding me, paying my bills, and had staff to cater to. So it was a struggle. We went into deeps and highs, but then at some point I realized I had to step aside. So, and it's an entrepreneurship challenge because of that passion, your baby. I found this thing, you don't want to leave it, you don't want to let go. And I think that's the challenge across board with partnership. We want to, a lot of times, just protect and guard what we have. And I recall my chairman then, may he so rest in peace, who said to me, Seyi, you're better off owning 1% of $1 billion company than 100% of a $1,000 company. And that made a lot of sense to me. So that allowed me to let go and gave room to another chief executive. And the company has survived and thrived since then. So it's also important to assess ourselves, like Maria has said, and know when as you shift or redefine the business model, you also want to begin to reappraise your purpose, life's purpose, so that that would enable us to find the right partnerships to sort of make up for the gaps we have. And then the other thing would just come by way of, and then this has been my experience in the UAE too. I have been working with a couple of young Africans, young entrepreneurs, not so much in the tech space, but with a lot of passion, a lot of drive to make an impact back home or be different. And you would find that what has made them stand out in such environment is having the right kind of partnership with fellow Africans, and support from fellow Africans, and people they can look up to and talk to, and then people who understand the space. I've heard some of them tell me that, look, this thing they are doing in Dubai or in America, for example, I want to currently my biggest market is in the UAE or in America, but you know what? I want to do this in Nigeria. I want to do this in Kenya. I want to do this in Uganda. And this is the conversation I've been having with them. But then what has happened is a lot of them have been out of the country for so long that they're out of touch with the environment, but their heart is still back home. So they need people. They need some of us to help them bridge that gap, to help them connect back to the reality of the ecosystems back home. And I think that's, it's one of the things that the Innovation Village also wants to look at. Lastly is about, I like that you're thinking and working along the lines of sustainability and scaling. And I do know that organizations like the African Development Bank is very poised to support entrepreneurship growth and development in Africa. I mean, even the UN. I mean, I know that sometime, I mean, not too long ago, the African Development Bank signed some understanding with the Tony Elumelu Foundation for Entrepreneurship Development across Africa. You know, so those kind of relationships, the Innovation Village can also leverage. And also, Uganda is the focus, is the hub, but you're doing something very, very fantastic. You're doing something unique. And I think that we should be able to bridge the gap across, I mean, bridge the communication and create more collaborations across Africa from east to west, north to south. And I'll be very willing to, take this conversation further. You know, but my question is, just one question is, to what extent are you informing or trying to influence, the government policy or decision makers in government as it relates to what you're doing? Because to a large extent, policies affect or impact you or impact us in the entrepreneurship space. So to what extent are you contributing to this, or to what extent are you haven't gone ahead of younger entrepreneurs? To what extent are you helping to debottleneck that path, just so that it is easier for upcoming entrepreneurs to find an easier way through?